Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, I am very pleased to say that we have family law attorney Vanessa J. Gorden, owner of GordenLaw LLC from Lincoln, Nebraska. Now, Vanessa, who is considered to be a leader in the area of family law, will be talking to you today about when and how to use limited scope representation in your divorce. So if you are one of the many people in the Lincoln, Nebraska area, and you're wanting to know more about today's topic, you know something? It just might be a good idea for you to stop what you are doing. Go ahead, log out of Facebook, give Twitter a break, or any other kind of distraction. You might even want to, I strongly suggest you grab a notepad and pen so that you can take some notes as you listen in to what Vanessa has to share with you today. So with that said, she's a very busy lady, so let's not keep her waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Vanessa.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And we are so glad to have you as well, Vanessa. So my first question for you today is, can you just briefly describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help?
Yes. My firm does exclusively family law areas. We work with people who are going through legal situations that touch on their most important relationships. And we offer both a traditional full-service litigation representation and the more modern concept of limited scope. And I think limited scope is still fairly new. It's only been around probably under 10 years that it's been becoming more well-known in the legal community. And traditional representation is more like hiring sort of a legal housekeeper to simply notice what needs to be done and take care of it as your agent as needed, the way a housekeeper, hopefully, if you have a good one, will dust your baseboards before you even notice they need it. Limited scope is a little bit more like ordering from a meal delivery service. There are specific items for a specific price that can be combined to make a meal, and the options are a little bit more limited. Although if I'm going to continue that analogy, the service is still gourmet and chef selected. So, for example, the lawyer might provide one document. They might be hired specifically to draft your decree of dissolution of marriage. And that's all they do for you. They don't handle court hearings, temporary motions, anything along those lines. Or the lawyer might only handle the temporary custody hearing and motion for you, and the rest of the property issues may be something that you're capable of putting together on your own, or you want to have a different lawyer expert put that together. And I found there's really two types of clients that benefit the most from limited scope representation. Clients without a lot of disagreement on their property and parenting time if children are involved, or clients who are savvy enough to handle some aspects of their case on their own, or to hire related experts who maybe aren't lawyers, but people who can do appraisals and business valuations, custody evaluations, those types of things. But to recognize that their portion's best prepared by someone who does that particular area every day.
And that's it for today's, ladies and gentlemen. I have to go because Vanessa keeps using food analogies, and I am feeling really hungry now. So thank you for tuning in. Oh my gosh, Vanessa, thank you so much for sharing such great detail who you help. I think it will be a good stage just to remind everybody before we move on that anything you share with us today is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of sharing information. Can we both agree on that then, Vanessa?
Absolutely.
Right. So with that said then, let me ask you this. When those people who you help come to you for your guidance, I'm sure that they quite often have some kinds of misconceptions. They've done some research online. They've found information, or they've heard from family and friends and colleagues, and they believe that the information they have, they believe that to be true. However, you as the family law attorney, sometimes you have to spend some time to debunk those myths. So of all the misconceptions that you come across, and I'm sure there are many of them, what's the most common one that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, Vanessa?
Well, focusing specifically on the limited scope representation, I would say that there are the greatest misconception is perhaps that it's like legal aid. It's some form of volunteer lawyer work, and that is not the case. It is, in fact, paid representation. It's just limited in scope and nature. In fact, many of those who benefit from limited scope have assets that are the specific subject of the limited scope. For example, the transfer of a vacation condo that's located in a state different from the state where the parties live and are divorcing. So one state is handling most of the issues. However, you would need to have someone draft perhaps a quitclaim deed or some other type of deed or transfer statement in the state where that vacation property is located. Or for the division of one party's retirement accounts. Oftentimes, retirement accounts are the largest asset that families have when they come into my office. And those are complicated to divide and have some specific rules that apply. And so often a limited scope representation will entail piecing out that portion, and the parties are able to work out the rest on their own. Another one, Stewart, if I can expand the scope of the question and give you another misconception that's common, is I think some clients and even some lawyers believe that other lawyers aren't doing their best work if they're charging a flat fee for certain documents or tasks. I actually have found the opposite to be true. When you limit the expectation on the lawyer to a single task or set of tasks, the lawyer is focused on doing those tasks to the best of her ability. It's much easier to manage expectations on both sides, both for the client as to what their specific goals are for that representation and what the cost will be, as well as for the lawyer as to what they are being requested to do when it's limited in nature.
So based on what you just shared with us then, Vanessa, and keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, of course, please share an example of how you've been able to help somebody who came to you with those challenges, that misconception you just described, and what kind of transformational results you were able to gain for them.
Well, I've had several of these, and to sort of combine them into one story, I would note that there are clients who are very savvy. There's a lot of information available. Perhaps the listeners to this podcast right now, this show, are in that group where they're gathering as much information as possible, and they really know quite a lot about the process when they come in. However, the details of how we get from point A to point B are what become a little bit fuzzy, particularly when families have already mediated a great deal of the issues and they've divided it out the way they wish to do that, but they don't know how to do a specific document that accomplishes the task, such as a property settlement agreement that outlines all of the vehicle identification numbers so that they can simply take that document and transfer title without further ado. Sometimes, too, parties can overstep their bounds and maybe perhaps try to draft their own decree and do a very good job. This one important sentence that says that parties are ordered to follow or abide by the agreements they've made in their property settlement agreement. And I've been able to come in on a limited scope basis and assist in revising with an order non protonque or in drafting the additional documents that the client didn't know was necessary to accomplish what the decree said they were going to do in dividing their assets.
Thanks for that, Vanessa. That's very useful information for our listeners tuning in right now. So as a reminder, we are talking about how to use limited scope representation in your divorce. Now, with that in mind, and for those people out there who are tuning in right now, Vanessa, what's the most common but unknown pitfall that you'd like them to be aware of, no matter what situation they find themselves in, or no matter even how they feel? What's the most common pitfall out there?
I would say that the number one pitfall in a divorce situation, regardless of whether you're using traditional representation or not, is to remember that the person who knows the most about your situation, financially, custody of your children, your history, is going to be you. The person who knows the second most amount is going to be the attorney that you are able to share that information with. And the person who knows the least will always be the judge, who has the least amount of time and availability to review your information and to speak with you directly. And so it's important that you recognize that your outcome is only going to be good as your input. And so it's important that you provide as much detailed information to your lawyer or to the court, if you're doing portions of your divorce proceeding yourself, as possible to allow the best outcome with the most information.
So let me ask you this then, Vanessa, because I'm quite curious now after listening to you for a while. How many years have you been practicing family law?
This year is my 12th year.
So after 12 years then, Vanessa, that's quite some time. Would it be safe to say that you've helped hundreds of people?
Yes, definitely.
Right. So with that said then, if you can imagine it's any day of the week and it's early morning, you're falling out of bed, or in your case, based on the energy that I'm feeling coming through the airwaves, you're spring out of bed, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. That's you, isn't it, Vanessa?
Guilty as charged.
The laugh says everything. That tells me everything. Anyway, it's time for you to wake up in the morning and you have a full day's work ahead of you helping your clients. After 12 years and working with hundreds of people, how does Vanessa Gorden feel on a day like that?
When I have a full plate, I'm happy. I'm always happiest when I'm busy and I know that I'm helping others, which is why I chose this area of law.
Why is that important to you? Why did you choose this area of law, and why is it that you feel so happy?
Well, I know that when I close a file and I move on to the next one, it's pretty much done for me unless someone needs additional help in the future. But I know that the person involved is living with the outcome, and it affects their most important relationships in their families. And so I don't consider the practice of law just a career or a paycheck for me. I truly believe it to be my calling, and I genuinely care about each of my clients and their families, even when they're not at their best.
So, Vanessa, tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your background, your formal education, as well as your experience as it relates to the topic of family law and limited scope representation.
Certainly. I graduated from the University of South Dakota School of Law with honors in 2005. I've been practicing law full-time since then. I did a little bit of general work to start and began focusing on family law. And then I opened my own practice in 2011, and I did that because I wanted to focus solely on the ways the law intersects with individuals in their family relationships. So that's namely divorce, but also includes paternity, custody, child and spousal support, enforcement of judgments, adoption, grandparent rights, guardianships and conservatorships, and juvenile law. So there's quite a bit that family law entails.
Perfect. So you can provide a 360-degree approach to helping your clients, no matter what situation they're in.
Correct.
Fantastic. So do this for me then, Vanessa. If you could just even close your eyes for a few seconds and create a picture of the people who come to you for your help, and they're wanting to dig a little bit deeper into the topic of using limited scope representation in their divorce. Now, with that picture in mind, Vanessa, what final thoughts would you like to share with them before we close out with our last question for today?
I would state that one benefit that people don't consider regarding limited scope representation, particularly in divorce, is that it can help involve you in the process at a different level where you're in the director's chair of the representation. And I find that to help people feel less like divorce is something that's happening to them and more like something that's happening that they have a stake in.
So if there is somebody out there who's tuning in right now, Vanessa, and they're wanting to know more about, the topic of limited scope representation in divorce, how can they find you? What's the easiest and quickest way to do that?
Well, the quickest way is probably through our website. Our firm uses a lot of technology for communication. And so they could go to www.GordenLaw.com. That's Gordon with an E. So GordenLaw.com.
Okay, folks, I know we're only beginning to scratch the tip of the iceberg. That's all we've seen from Vanessa today. I know she can share so much more information. She's been in the industry for so long. However, we are out of time. So, as a reminder, we have been listening to the lovely family law attorney, Vanessa J. Gorden. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for sharing so generously with us today. You have definitely, without a doubt, demonstrated that you are a true educator, advocate, and trustworthy advisor for your client's success. So thank you.
Thanks, Stewart.
You are so welcome, my dear. And I would even like to say a bigger thank you to you. Yes, the listener. Without you, we wouldn't have anybody to talk to. So thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative discussion with one of the leading family law attorneys in the Lincoln, Nebraska area today. Again, her name is Vanessa J. Gorden. Remember her name. Make sure you do check her out. Give her a call. I'm sure whatever you decide to do, if you choose Vanessa, you're going to be in a great place to get started. So that's it, folks. Again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading family law professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present, and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.